My name is Nick Parrish, and I own an electrical contracting business with my brother John in a mid-sized industrial town that most people drive through without stopping. The kind of place where everyone knows your business before you do, where the coffee shop gossip travels faster than the morning news, and where 17 years of marriage can unravel over Thursday afternoon lattes. It started with the alarm on Beth's phone. Every Wednesday night, same time, that little chime would go off. Thursday coffee, the notification read. She'd silence it quickly, sometimes before I even noticed, but after 3 months of the same routine, patterns become impossible to ignore. Coffee with whom? I asked one evening, watching her delete the reminder with practiced efficiency. Just an old friend, Beth replied, not looking up from her phone. We meet every Thursday to catch up. It's therapeutic, you know? Closure from the past. Closure. That word stuck in my mind like a splinter. What kind of closure requires weekly maintenance? What kind of therapy happens in a coffee shop every Thursday at 2:30 in the afternoon? I'm an electrician by trade, which means I understand circuits, connections, and when something isn't wired right. Beth's Thursday routine felt like a short circuit waiting to happen. The next Thursday, I watched from my office window as she pulled out of our driveway in her silver Honda. She'd dressed carefully that morning, not fancy, but intentional. The kind of outfit that says, I'm not trying too hard, while trying very hard indeed. Her hair had that fresh from the salon bounce, and she'd applied lipstick twice before leaving. 2 hours later, she returned with coffee on her breath and satisfaction in her smile. Not happiness, satisfaction. There's a difference. Happiness is light, spontaneous. Satisfaction is earned, accomplished, secret. How was coffee? I asked, testing the waters. Good, she said, still smiling that satisfied smile. Really good. We talked about old times, current things. It's nice having someone who really understands me. Someone who really understands her. After 17 years of marriage, 2 daughters, and building a business together, apparently I didn't make that list. I could have confronted her then, could have demanded details, followed her, made accusations. Instead, I did what any good electrician does when facing a complex problem. I studied the system first. The following Thursday, I noted the time she left, 2:15. The time she returned, 4:45. That's 2.5 hours for coffee and conversation. The Thursday after that, same schedule, same satisfied smile. The pattern held for 6 consecutive weeks. Beth had always been particular about her appearance, but Thursdays brought out a different level of care. She'd shower longer, spend extra time choosing clothes, apply perfume to places she thought I wouldn't notice. The pulse points behind her ears, the inside of her wrists. Details matter in my line of work, and these details painted a picture I didn't want to see. Our daughters, Beau and Bree, were 16 and 14, respectively, both involved in after-school activities that kept them busy most afternoons. Convenient timing for Thursday coffee dates. Beth had calculated this schedule carefully, I realized. Nothing about it was accidental. The coffee shop she frequented was called Maureen's Place, a cozy spot downtown with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. I'd driven past it countless times but never paid attention. Now I found myself noticing things. The parking situation, the window seating, the fact that it offered both privacy and plausible deniability. I began keeping a notebook. Not because I planned to hire a private investigator. Those guys charge too much and find too little. I kept notes because patterns tell stories, and I wanted to understand the story my wife was writing every Thursday afternoon. Week 7, left at 2:10, returned at 4:50, humming in the car, checked her phone 3 times during dinner. Week 8, new blouse, subtle but noticeable, gone 2 hours and 40 minutes. Mentioned her coffee friend was going through a difficult time and needed support. Week 9, came home with a small gift bag from a boutique near Maureen's Place. When I asked about it, she said she'd treated herself to new earrings. I deserve nice things too, she said, as if I'd argued otherwise. By week 10, I'd filled half the notebook. Beth's Thursday routine had evolved into something resembling a double life. She'd started mentioning her coffee friend more often, always vaguely, never by name. He thinks I should take that art class I mentioned. He believes I have untapped potential. He really listens when I talk. He. So now I had a gender for my wife's Thursday companion. The smart move would have been hiring a private investigator. The expensive move would have been confronting Beth directly. Instead, I chose the strategic move. I called my lawyer. Tom Brennan had handled our business contracts for years, helped us navigate the legal complexities of running a family electrical company. He was thorough, discreet, and understood the value of preparation over reaction. I need advice, I told him over the phone. Hypothetically speaking, if someone suspected their spouse of infidelity, what would be the most effective approach? Hypothetically, Tom replied, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Evidence matters less than preparation. Private investigators are expensive and often unnecessary. The real question is, what outcome do you want? I want the truth, and I want to be ready for whatever that truth looks like. Then you need documentation, financial preparation, and legal strategy, in that order. Can you come in tomorrow? That night, Beth set her Thursday coffee alarm as usual. I watched her do it, noting the care with which she selected the notification tone, the way she placed the phone face down afterward. Small gestures, but they revealed a woman protecting secrets. Same coffee date tomorrow? I asked casually. Same as always, she replied. It's become such an important part of my week. I look forward to it more than anything else. More than anything else. More than family dinners, more than our conversations, more than the life we'd built together. Her Thursday coffee had become the highlight of her week, and I wasn't invited. I scheduled my appointment with Tom for Friday morning, giving me 24 hours to observe Thursday's routine with fresh eyes. This time, I wouldn't just note the patterns, I'd start building a case. Because if Beth wanted to play games with our marriage, I intended to win. Tom Brennan's office occupied the second floor of a converted Victorian house downtown, the kind of place that whispered respectability and discretion. His secretary, a sharp-eyed woman named Carol, offered coffee and sympathy in equal measure. Apparently, my situation wasn't unique. Before we discuss specifics, Tom said, settling behind his mahogany desk, I need to understand your goals. Are you looking to save your marriage or end it? I'm looking to protect myself, I replied. Whatever comes next, I want to be prepared. Tom nodded approvingly. Smart approach. Too many people let emotions drive their decisions in these situations. Let's talk strategy. He explained the legal landscape with clinical precision. Our state recognized fault-based divorce, meaning adultery could impact asset division and custody arrangements. However, proving adultery required more than suspicion, it required evidence. The good news, Tom continued, is that evidence often reveals itself when you know where to look. The bad news is that looking can be expensive and emotionally devastating. What about hiring a private investigator? Possible, but not always necessary. Often, the cheating spouse's partner is the better source of information. They're usually less careful, more emotional, more likely to leave a trail. That afternoon, I implemented Tom's advice. Instead of following Beth, I focused on identifying her coffee companion. Maureen's place had a small parking lot and limited street parking. If someone met there regularly, they'd develop parking habits. I positioned myself across the street with a clear view of the coffee shop entrance and waited. At 2:25, Beth's Honda pulled into the lot. She sat in the car for several minutes, checking her appearance in the mirror before walking inside. 5 minutes later, a familiar truck pulled up to the curb. Dark blue Ford F-150, custom rims, contractor plates. I recognized it immediately because I'd helped pick it out 3 years ago. My brother John climbed out of the driver's seat. The world didn't stop spinning. The ground didn't open up beneath me. Those dramatic reactions happen in movies, not in real life. In real life, betrayal feels like solving a puzzle you never wanted to complete. All the pieces suddenly fit together with horrible clarity. John Parrish, my older brother and business partner, the man I'd trusted with my company, my family, my life, the person who knew our marriage better than anyone because he'd watched it unfold for 17 years. He understood Beth's complaints, her frustrations, her desires, because he'd heard them all secondhand through me. I sat in my truck for another hour, watching the coffee shop entrance, processing this new reality. When they emerged together, Beth touched John's arm briefly before they separated. A small gesture, intimate and familiar. They'd been doing this for months, developing their own language of glances and touches. The drive home took forever and no time at all. I needed to think, to plan, to decide how to handle this nuclear bomb that had just exploded in my life. But first, I needed to verify what I'd seen, to make sure my eyes hadn't deceived me. That evening, Beth returned home glowing with her usual Thursday satisfaction. She kissed my cheek, asked about my day, and helped our daughters with homework. The perfect wife and mother, except for the secret she carried like poison in her smile. John called around 8 o'clock, his voice casual and brotherly. Hey, Nick, wanted to discuss the Morrison contract tomorrow. You free for lunch? Sure, I replied, watching Beth from across the room. She'd gone still at the sound of John's voice, her attention focused on our conversation. Everything okay with the project? Just some scheduling issues, nothing we can't handle. Beth relaxed when John hung up, returning to her magazine with studied nonchalance. But I'd seen her reaction, the momentary tension when his name came up, more pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. I called Tom the next morning before my lunch meeting with John. "It's my brother," I told him. "My business partner. This complicates everything." "Actually, it simplifies things," Tom replied. "Family betrayal is messier emotionally, but cleaner legally. We can address both the personal and business aspects simultaneously, but we need to be very careful about how we proceed." "What do you mean?" "Your brother has access to company finances, business records, potentially damaging information about you. If he suspects you know about the affair, he might try to protect himself by attacking you first." The lunch meeting with John felt surreal. We sat in our usual booth at Danny's Diner, discussing electrical contracts and project timelines while the elephant of his betrayal filled the space between us. He looked the same, sandy hair, weathered hands, the Parrish family jawline we'd both inherited. But knowing what I knew now, I saw things differently. The way he asked about Beth and the girls, the casual questions about our marriage, our plans, our problems. How long had he been gathering intelligence? How many of my private complaints about Beth had he filed away for future use? How many times had I handed him ammunition to use against my own marriage? "You seem distracted," John observed, cutting into his burger. "Everything all right at home?" The question felt loaded with hidden meaning. Was he fishing for information or genuinely concerned? With John, I could no longer tell the difference. "Just the usual stuff," I replied. "Beth's been busy with her Thursday coffee dates, says it's therapeutic." John's expression didn't change, but his chewing slowed slightly. "That's good. Everyone needs outside friendships." Outside friendships. The phrase hung in the air like smoke from a fire you can't quite locate. That afternoon, I returned to Tom's office with a list of questions and a growing sense of urgency. If John suspected I knew about the affair, he might accelerate whatever timeline he and Beth had planned. I needed to move faster. "I want to know everything," I told Tom. "Financial records, business documents, personal communications. Whatever it takes." "Slow down," Tom cautioned. "Rushing leads to mistakes, and mistakes give them advantages. We need to be methodical." He outlined a strategy that would take weeks to implement properly. Financial analysis, asset protection, custody preparation, evidence gathering. Each step had to be completed carefully to avoid alerting John and Beth to my knowledge. "The key," Tom explained, "is maintaining normal behavior while building your case. Can you do that? Can you go home tonight, have dinner with your wife, and act like nothing has changed?" I thought about Beth's Thursday smile, John's casual questions, the months of deception they'd practiced while I remained oblivious. "I can do whatever it takes," I said. That evening, I helped Bew with her algebra homework while Beth prepared dinner, normal family life continuing despite the fault lines running beneath its surface. John called during dessert to discuss a supply order, his voice warm and brotherly. Beth listened to my side of the conversation with careful attention, her fork paused halfway to her mouth. After the girls went upstairs to do homework, Beth and I settled on the couch to watch television. She curled against my side, her head on my shoulder, playing the role of devoted wife with practiced ease. "I love our quiet evenings," she murmured. "Sometimes I think we don't appreciate what we have." The irony of her words might have made me laugh under different circumstances. Instead, I kissed the top of her head and agreed that we were very fortunate. Later, as Beth set her Thursday coffee alarm, I realized that maintaining normal behavior wouldn't be the hardest part of Tom's strategy. The hardest part would be waiting for the right moment to destroy them both. But I could be patient. After all, I'd learned from the best. I'd been watching Beth and John practice deception for months. Now it was my turn. 3 weeks into my investigation, Tom called with unexpected news. "I found her," he said without preamble. "John's wife, and she wants to meet." I'd been so focused on Beth's betrayal that I'd barely considered the collateral damage. John was married to Linda, a quiet woman who worked as a nurse at the regional hospital. They'd been married 12 years, had 2 young sons, and lived in a modest ranch house on the other side of town. "She knows?" I asked. "She's suspected for months. Apparently your brother has been just as careless as your wife." We arranged to meet at a small restaurant outside town, neutral territory where neither of us would be recognized. Linda arrived first, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was an anchor in a storm. She looked older than I remembered, worn down by suspicion and sleepless nights. Her nurse's training showed in her posture, straight-backed, alert, ready for crisis, but her eyes held the same hollow expression I'd been seeing in my own mirror lately. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said as I sat across from her. "I wasn't sure either. This feels like crossing a line." They crossed the line first. Her voice carried a bitterness I recognized. "How long have you known?" 3 weeks. You?" 6 months. Maybe longer, if I'm honest with myself. Linda opened a manila folder and spread its contents across the table between us. Hotel receipts, credit card statements, photographs taken with a telephoto lens. The evidence of our spouse's affair laid out like crime scene photos. I hired a private investigator, she explained. Cost me $3,000, but it was worth every penny. The photographs were damning. John and Beth entering a motel room together. John's hand on Beth's lower back as they walked through a hotel lobby. Beth laughing at something John said while they sat in his truck outside Maureen's place. The coffee shop was just the beginning, Linda continued. They meet there, then go somewhere private. Hotels, motels, sometimes his office after hours. I studied the evidence with professional detachment, cataloging details and dates. How long has this been going on? At least 8 months, probably longer. 8 months. While I'd been worrying about business contracts and family finances, my wife and brother had been building their own secret world. The betrayal felt fresh all over again, deeper and more calculated than I'd imagined. What do you want to do about it? I asked. Linda's smile was sharp as a scalpel. I want to destroy them both. Legally, financially, socially, I want them to lose everything they value. That's a dangerous game. So is adultery. She was right, of course. John and Beth had chosen to play with fire. Now they could deal with the consequences. We spent 2 hours comparing notes, sharing evidence, and planning strategy. Linda's private investigator had been thorough. She had documentation going back months, including financial records showing John had been spending company money on his affair. He's been using business credit cards for hotels, Linda explained, sliding a stack of statements across the table. Charging personal expenses to your company account. Embezzlement. That added a criminal dimension to John's betrayal that could destroy him professionally as well as personally. I need copies of everything, I said. I was hoping you'd say that. Linda had come prepared with duplicate files, everything organized and labeled with the precision of someone accustomed to critical, high-stakes documentation. Her nursing background showed in the meticulous attention to detail. There's something else, she said as we prepared to leave. John's been talking about making changes at your business. Linda mentioned he thinks you're not pulling your weight anymore. Beth said that? According to my investigator, John's been complaining that you're distracted, unreliable. He's been building a case to push you out of your own company. The scope of their betrayal expanded again. Not content with destroying my marriage, they were planning to steal my livelihood as well. The business I'd built from nothing, the company that employed 12 people and supported 2 families, was apparently another casualty in their selfish game. We can't let that happen, Linda said. We won't. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. Not hope for reconciliation or forgiveness, but hope for justice. Linda had given me the tools to fight back, to protect myself and my daughters from the wreckage John and Beth were planning to leave behind. That evening, Beth asked about my day with unusual interest. You were gone a long time, she observed. Everything okay? Just business stuff, boring contractor meetings. She accepted the explanation easily, but I noticed her checking her phone more frequently throughout the evening. Was she texting John, reporting on my mood and activities? How long had they been monitoring me, planning their next moves? The Thursday coffee alarm went off as usual. Beth silenced it quickly, but not before I saw the message preview. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Can't wait. The eagerness in those words stung more than I expected. When had Beth stopped feeling that way about seeing me? I helped Bree with her science project while Beth did laundry, maintaining the facade of normal family life. But everything felt different now, charged with hidden meaning and suppressed anger. I was no longer just observing their deception. I was actively working to counter it. Tom had been right about evidence revealing itself when you knew where to look. Linda's investigation had uncovered a conspiracy much larger than simple adultery. John and Beth weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future that didn't include me. But they'd made one critical mistake. They'd underestimated their opposition. I might not have Linda's private investigator or her months of preparation, but I had something equally valuable, intimate knowledge of my enemies. I knew John's weaknesses, Beth's fears, and the pressure points that would cause maximum damage when the time came to strike back. That time was approaching faster than they realized. The next morning, I called Tom to schedule another meeting. I have new evidence, I told him, and I think it's time to go on the offense. What kind of evidence? The kind that turns a divorce case into a criminal investigation. Tom was quiet for a moment. Bring everything you have. It sounds like we need to adjust our strategy. Adjustment felt like an understatement. What I had in mind was more like total warfare. But first, I had to survive one more Thursday coffee date, one more evening of Beth's satisfied smile, one more night of pretending I didn't know my entire life was built on lies. The hardest part wouldn't be maintaining the deception much longer. The hardest part would be deciding how much mercy to show when the time came for revenge. Thursday arrived like a storm you see coming but can't avoid. Beth went through her usual ritual, the careful shower, the deliberate outfit selection, the subtle application of perfume to pulse points she thought I wouldn't notice. Every gesture felt like a knife turning in an open wound. "Same coffee date today?" I asked, watching her check her appearance in the hallway mirror. "Of course," she replied, adjusting her earrings. "It's become such an important part of my routine. I don't know what I'd do without it." Without him, she meant. Without John. Without the secret life they'd built while I worked to support our family. "Have fun," I said, kissing her cheek. Her skin smelled like the expensive perfume she'd started wearing recently, another small luxury funded by the business account John had been raiding. After Beth left, I called Tom. "Today's the day. Are you sure? Once we start this process, there's no going back." "I'm sure." The divorce papers were ready, filed and processed according to Tom's meticulous timeline. Asset protection measures were in place, custody documentation was prepared, evidence was organized and copied. Everything waited for my signal. "Remember," Tom said, "stay calm, stick to the facts, and don't let emotion drive your decisions. This is business now." Business. After 17 years of marriage, 2 daughters, and a shared life. My relationship with Beth had become a business transaction. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent the afternoon in my workshop, a detached garage behind our house where I kept tools and worked on personal projects. The familiar routine of organizing equipment and checking inventory helped calm my nerves. In a few hours, everything would change forever. At 4:30, I heard Beth's Honda pull into the driveway. She was humming as she walked through the front door, that same satisfied melody that had become the soundtrack to her Thursday returns. "How was coffee?" I called from the kitchen, where I'd positioned the divorce papers on the counter like a place setting for dinner. "Wonderful," she replied, hanging her purse on its usual hook. "We had such a good conversation. He really understands." She stopped mid-sentence when she saw the legal documents. "What's this?" she asked, her voice shifting from contentment to confusion. "Divorce papers," I replied calmly. "I thought we should make your Thursday relationship official." Beth's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, denial, calculation, and finally, defiance. She picked up the papers, scanning the first page with growing anger. "This is ridiculous," she said, laughing in a way that sounded forced. "You can't prove anything happened. These are just accusations." "I don't need to prove anything," I replied, enjoying the moment more than I'd expected. "Your boyfriend's wife already did." The laughter stopped. Beth's face went pale as the implications sank in. "Linda hired a private investigator 6 months ago," I continued. "She has photographs, hotel receipts, credit card statements, even recordings of your phone conversations. Everything." Beth sank into a kitchen chair, the papers scattered across the table in front of her. "You talked to Linda?" "We're allies now. Turns out we have a lot in common." "Nick, please, let me explain." "Explain what? That you've been sleeping with my brother for 8 months? That you've been using our family as cover for your affair? That John's been stealing from our business to pay for your hotel rooms?" Each accusation hit like a physical blow. Beth's composure cracked further with every revelation. "It's not what you think," she said weakly. "It's exactly what I think, and it's exactly what Linda's private investigator documented." I pulled out copies of the evidence Linda had shared, photographs of Beth and John together, financial records showing misappropriated funds, hotel receipts with their names and signatures. 8 months of evidence, I said, spreading the photos across the table. 8 months of lies, 8 months of planning to destroy our marriage and steal my business. Beth stared at the photographs as if they showed someone else's life. When did you? "I've known for weeks. I've been preparing for this conversation while you've been preparing for your next hotel room." The cruelty in my words felt justified. Beth had forfeited the right to gentle treatment when she chose to betray our family. "The girls," she said suddenly. "What about Beau and Bree?" "They'll live with me. Linda's evidence proves you're an unfit mother who prioritized adultery over family responsibility. You can't take my daughters away from me." "I'm not taking them. You gave them away when you chose John over your family." Beth began crying then, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration and anger. She'd been caught, outmaneuvered, and exposed, and she didn't like losing control of the narrative. "This isn't over," she said, wiping her eyes. "John won't let you destroy us." "John doesn't have a choice. He's been embezzling from our business. That's a criminal matter now, not just a civil one." I showed her the financial records Linda had provided, highlighting the charges John had made to company accounts for personal expenses related to their affair. Hotel rooms, restaurants, gifts, all paid for with business funds. The district attorney will find this very interesting. Beth's defiance crumbled as she realized the full scope of her situation. Not only was her marriage over, but John faced potential criminal charges that could destroy his career and freedom. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "I want you out of my house, tonight. I want you to stay away from our daughters until the custody hearing. And I want you to understand that your Thursday coffee dates just cost you everything you claim to value." "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem anymore. Maybe John can help you figure it out." Beth gathered the scattered papers with shaking hands. "I never meant for this to happen." "Yes, you did. You planned it, executed it, and enjoyed it. The only thing you didn't plan for was getting caught." She stood to leave, then turned back one final time. "I did love you once." Once isn't enough for 17 years of marriage. After Beth left, I sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal and the legal documents that would reshape our lives. The house felt different already, smaller but cleaner, damaged but honest. The girls would be home from school soon. I'd have to explain why their mother was gone, why our family was broken, why their Uncle John wouldn't be coming to dinner anymore. But first, I had one more phone call to make. "Tom, it's done. She took the papers." "How did she react?" "About like we expected. Denial, then anger, then bargaining. She knows she's trapped." "And John?" "That's phase 2. I think it's time my brother and I had a conversation about business ethics." "Be careful, Nick. Cornered animals are dangerous. So are betrayed brothers." I hung up and waited for my daughters to come home, preparing to explain how their world had changed while they were at school learning algebra and history. Outside, Beth's Thursday routine was finally over. But my Thursday revenge was just beginning. John arrived at my house Friday morning, his face a mask of controlled fury. I'd been expecting him since Beth had undoubtedly called with news of her exposure. What I hadn't expected was his aggressive confidence, as if he still held cards worth playing. "We need to talk," he said, pushing past me into the living room. "I agree. Let's start with the $8,000 you stole from our business account." John's confidence flickered. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Hotel charges, restaurant bills, gifts for your girlfriend, all paid for with company funds. Linda's private investigator documented everything." "Linda's lying." "Linda has receipts, with your signature." I spread the financial records across the coffee table, watching John's face as he recognized his own handwriting on credit card slips and hotel registrations. "This is embezzlement, John. Criminal fraud. The kind of thing that destroys careers and sends people to prison." "You're blowing this out of proportion," John said, but his voice lacked conviction. "It was just a few expenses." $8,000 over 6 months. That's not a few expenses, that's systematic theft." John sat heavily on the couch, his aggression replaced by calculation. "What do you want?" "I want you out of our business. Complete buyout of your shares, effective immediately. I want you to repay every cent you stole, and I want you to stay away from my family." "And if I refuse?" "Then I file criminal charges and let the district attorney sort it out." We stared at each other across the coffee table, 17 years of brotherhood reduced to a business negotiation. John had the Parrish family jawline, the same stubborn streak that had helped us build our company from nothing. But stubbornness wouldn't save him from documented fraud. "Beth said you were being unreasonable," John said finally. "Beth doesn't get an opinion anymore. She lost that right when she chose to destroy our family." "It wasn't supposed to happen this way." "How was it supposed to happen? You seduce my wife, steal my money, and I just accept it gracefully?" John's mask slipped, revealing something uglier underneath. "You never appreciated what you had. Beth felt neglected, ignored. I gave her attention you couldn't be bothered to provide. You gave her attention because you wanted to take everything I'd built, my wife, my business, my life. This wasn't about Beth feeling neglected. This was about you feeling jealous." "That's not true." "Isn't it? You've always resented that I started the business, that my name comes first on the contracts, that people think of it as Nick Parrish Electric instead of Parrish Brothers Electric." The accusation hit home. John's expression shifted from denial to admission. "Maybe I did think I deserved more credit," he said. "Maybe I was tired of being the junior partner in something I helped build." "So you decided to steal it?" "I decided to take what should have been mine anyway." There it was, the truth beneath the affair, the real motivation behind months of deception. John hadn't fallen in love with Beth. He'd fallen in love with the idea of taking my place. "Well, congratulations," I said. "You've succeeded in destroying everything we built together. The business will survive, but our partnership won't." "The business needs both of us." "The business needs honest partners. You're neither honest nor a partner anymore." John stood up, his hands clenched into fists. For a moment I thought he might try violence, but the moment passed. Even in his anger, he knew that attacking me would only make his legal situation worse. "I'll fight you," he said instead. "In court, in business, wherever it takes. You won't get rid of me that easily." "Actually, I will, because I have something you don't." "What's that?" "Documentation, evidence, proof of your crimes. You can fight all you want, but you'll lose because you're guilty." I walked to the front door and opened it. "You have 48 hours to decide. Accept my buyout offer and repay the stolen funds, or face criminal charges. Your choice." John paused in the doorway. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is. You just haven't accepted it yet." After he left, I called Tom to report on the conversation. "He's going to fight," Tom predicted. "Men like your brother don't surrender easily. Let him fight. We have the evidence. Evidence wins in court, but it doesn't prevent desperate people from doing stupid things. Watch your back." That afternoon, I drove to the business office to secure company records and change access codes. Our secretary, Mary, looked worried when I explained the situation. "I can't believe John would steal from the company," she said. "People do surprising things when they feel entitled to something they haven't earned." "What happens now?" "Now we protect the business and our employees. John's actions don't reflect on anyone else." I spent the weekend explaining the situation to key employees and contractors, ensuring business continuity despite the partnership dissolution. Most people expressed shock at John's behavior, but a few admitted they'd suspected something was wrong. "He'd been acting strange lately," said Mike, our lead electrician. "Secretive phone calls, unexplained absences. We thought maybe he was having personal problems." Personal problems. That was one way to describe adultery and embezzlement. Monday morning brought John's response. A lawsuit claiming I was trying to force him out of the business illegally. His lawyer had filed papers alleging breach of partnership agreement and demanding full access to company records. Tom reviewed the lawsuit with professional detachment. "It's a stalling tactic. He's hoping to muddy the waters and negotiate from a stronger position." "Will it work?" "Not with the evidence we have, but it will drag things out and cost money." "How much money?" "Potentially a lot. Legal battles are expensive, especially when they involve both civil and criminal elements." I thought about the cost. Not just financial, but emotional and professional. John was willing to destroy our business to avoid consequences for his actions. "File the criminal complaint," I said. "If he wants to fight, let's give him a real fight." "Are you sure? Once we involve law enforcement, this becomes public record." "Good. Let everyone see what kind of man my brother really is." That evening, Beth called for the first time since Thursday's confrontation. "John says you're trying to destroy him," she said without preamble. "John destroyed himself. I'm just documenting the damage." "The girls are asking about me. When can I see them?" "When the court says you can. Until then, they're better off without your influence." "You can't keep me from my daughters forever." "I'm not keeping you from them. Your choices are keeping you from them." "Nick, please." I hung up. Beth had forfeited the right to reasonable conversation when she chose adultery over family. The next morning brought news that John had been arrested on embezzlement charges. The local newspaper ran a small article about it, noting that he was a partner in a successful electrical contracting business. My phone rang constantly. Employees, contractors, customers, all wanting to know if the business was stable. I assured everyone that operations would continue normally, that John's personal legal problems didn't affect our ability to serve customers. But privately, I wondered about the long-term damage. Small-town businesses depend on reputation, and scandal has a way of spreading like electrical fire through dry insulation. That Thursday, the first Thursday in months without Beth's coffee date, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee alone. The house felt different without her presence, quieter but more honest. My daughters would be home from school soon, full of questions about their mother's absence and their uncle's arrest. I'd have to explain how adult choices have consequences, how trust once broken is difficult to repair. But first, I had one more call to make. "Linda, it's Nick. John was arrested this morning." "I heard. How do you feel?" "Like justice is finally being served." "Any regrets?" I thought about 17 years of marriage, decades of brotherhood, a business built from nothing and nearly destroyed by greed and betrayal. None at all. Outside, Thursday afternoon stretched ahead without secrets, without lies, without the satisfied smile of a wife returning from adultery. For the first time in months, I looked forward to what came next. 6 months later, I sat in my kitchen on a Thursday morning, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. The house felt different now, smaller with just the three of us, but cleaner somehow. Honest. The girls had adapted better than I'd expected, though they still asked about their mother occasionally. Beth had moved to another state after the divorce was finalized, taking a job as a receptionist in a dental office. The custody agreement allowed supervised visits twice a year, but she'd only exercised that right once. Apparently, motherhood was less appealing when it came with accountability and consequences. John had pleaded guilty to embezzlement and received 2 years probation plus restitution. The business had survived his betrayal, though it took months to rebuild trust with customers and suppliers. We'd hired 2 new electricians and landed several major contracts. Success, it turned out, was easier without a partner stealing from the company account. The local gossip mill had moved on to other scandals, but people still remembered. Small towns have long memories for betrayal, and both Beth and John had learned that reputation, once destroyed, was nearly impossible to rebuild. My lawyer Tom had been right about evidence revealing itself when you knew where to look. Linda's private investigator had uncovered a conspiracy much larger than simple adultery. They'd planned to push me out of the business, divide the assets, and build their future on the ruins of 2 marriages. Instead, they'd both lost everything they'd schemed to gain. I finished my coffee and prepared for another day of running a successful business, raising 2 daughters, and building a life free from deception. The Thursday coffee alarm would never sound again in my house, and I was grateful for that silence. Some patterns, once broken, should never be repaired. The revenge had been complete, methodical, and entirely legal. Justice served cold, as they say, but justice nonetheless. And every Thursday morning, as I drank my coffee in peace, I remembered that sometimes the best way to win a game is to change the rules entirely. Beth had wanted her Thursday coffee meetings. I'd given her a Thursday divorce instead. The smile that disappeared that evening had never returned, just as I'd promised it wouldn't. Some promises, unlike marriage vows, are meant to be kept forever.